This book is about Hajj, from Adam to Abraham. Hajj is more than a journey that is a ritual. Hajj is a way of living. This book is written by Safir Robb. Chapter 6: The Sacred Precincts of Mecca. After one adorns himself in ihram and recites the Tabir, he should direct his attention to Masjid al-Haram in the sacred precincts of Mecca. The sacred precincts of Mecca include the area around Mecca marked by stones 1 meter high on all roads leading to Mecca. On the northern side, Haram Mecca extends to Tanin, which is 6 kilometers from the sacred mosque. Adan is on the southern side, 12 kilometers from Haram. On the eastern side, 16 kilometers away, lies Al Juraina. On the north border lies the valley of Nakha, which is 14 kilometers from Mecca. On the western border lies Ash-Shamisi, which is 15 kilometers from the Haram. Muhabuddin al-Tabari reported the Prophet Abraham put markers for the sacred precincts as shown to him by the angel Gabriel. These markers were undisturbed until the time of Kursi, whom did renew them. After that, the Prophet, peace be upon him, in the year of the conquest of Mecca, sent Tams bin Usaid to refurbish them. Since then, the markers have not been removed, but refurbished a number of times. Thus, we understand that the angel Gabriel directed the prophet Abraham in establishing the limits of the sacred precincts. The prophet Abraham has become the human medium by which the rest of humanity should come to know the limits of the sacred precincts. Prophet Muhammad reestablished the validity of the markers by having them refurbished but not removed or rearranged. After entering the sacred precincts, the first thing a believer should do is to go directly to the sacred mosque. One does not have to perform salutation prayers to the sacred mosque because tawaf of the Kaaba is its salutation. By Ibn Abbas, 120 mercies descend upon the Kaaba every day and night. 60 for those performing tawaf, 40 for those performing salat, and 20 for those for merely just looking at the Kaaba. This establishes that tawaf is a form of worship that carries more of the mercies of Allah than any of the other acts of worship performed. It even carries more than salat. This gives the believer some idea of the importance of tawaf in our religion. However, if for some reason a believer is unable to perform tawaf, he should make the salutation masjid salat. Allah instructs us through Prophet Muhammad in the Holy Quran. Behold, we gave the sight to Abraham of the sacred house, saying, associate not anything in worship with me, and sanctify my house for those who compass it round, or stand up, or bow, or prostrate themselves in prayer. Here it is understood that Allah gives unquestionable validity to the report from Abdullah bin Utbah. In this ayat, Allah states that He has given the sight to Abraham. This site is the boundary of the sacred precincts of Mecca, as defined by the aforementioned markers that were first revealed to Abraham by the angel Gabriel and later refurbished under the supervision of Prophet Muhammad. Located at the site is the Kaaba, also known as the sacred house. Allah instructs humanity not to associate anything in worship with Him. We should not dignify anything or anyone with the same status as is given to Allah. We sanctify the house by going around it in the performance of tawaf. We sanctify the house by standing in prayer. We sanctify it by bowing in prayer. We sanctify it by prostrating in prayer. At this point, it is important to clarify the idea that mankind should sanctify the house that is already the most sacred place on the planet. We refer to Allah as Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of all the worlds. This means that Allah is the Lord of all the physical worlds as well as spiritual worlds. Alameen is derived from the root word alam, which means knowledge. This establishes that Allah is the Lord of all the worlds of knowledge as well. Most of Allah's creatures are creatures with a fixed nature. Those creatures must worship Him because that is the nature with which they are created. However, Allah created the human being with a nature that allows for freedom of worship. The human being is given the choice either to worship Allah as his soul bids him to, or to worship some other God besides Allah as Satan encourages him to. Those who come to the sacred precincts and adorn themselves in ihram to perform either Hajj or Umrah came because their souls bidded them to do so. A believer is not forced to visit the Kaaba. Rather, a believer visits the house of his own free will. To please Allah, a believer visits the house, the sacred house, and makes tawaf or salat because faith encourages the believer to express his belief in this way. This is what is referred to as sanctity. It is a sanctity because the believer comes willingly. It is a sanctity because the believer struggles to overcome the discouragement of Satan. Allah boasts to the angels about these acts when the believer willingly worships Him. It is reported that once the believers sat in a group to thank Allah for blessing them with Islam, the Rasulullah approached them and asked for what reason had they assembled. And they replied, for no other reason but to glorify Allah. The Rasulullah said he just wanted to verify their reason because the angel Gabriel came to him to report that Allah was boasting to the angels in the heavens that the believers glorify His name willingly. This hadith is true manifestation of Allah's statement that the believers sanctify His house. For when one visits the Kaaba and performs tawaf and makes salat, it is because he wants to glorify the Lord, his Lord, willingly, submitting his soul to these acts of worship. Allah reminds the believer by revealing, remember, we made the house a place of assembly for men and a place of safety. And take ye the station of Abraham and Ishmael, that they should sanctify my house for those who compass it round, or use it as a retreat, or bow, or prostrate themselves therein in prayer. The reader is reminded that the preceding ayat are the divine words of Allah. This ayat begins by communicating with the soul, instructing it to remember. Remember the house as a place of assembly for men and a place of safety for souls of the believers. Here again, it is brought our consciousness that when the believer comes willingly, he sanctifies the house by worshiping Allah. Here, we are instructed to take the station of Abraham and Ismail. We should reflect on this point in a small divergence to take advantage of a very important point of the rites of Hajj. Inasmuch as the rites of Hajj holds the universal message for mankind, it is established on the individual development of each believer. When Allah refers to the sacred house in this ayat, He refers to it as my house. He says to take this house as a place of assembly for mankind. This emphasizes the importance of the relationship of the one true God with respect to mankind. Again, the house was reconstructed by Abraham and Ismail. Abraham is the friend of God among the brotherhood of the prophets. Abraham represents the one who takes a rational approach to his religious development. Ismail represents unquestionable faith among the brotherhood of prophets. Just as the Kaaba on this planet Earth was built by Abraham and Ismail, so should believers build a Kaaba on the earth over which he has control, the human body. We should use rational religious knowledge and unquestionable faith to develop and construct a sacred precinct in our own being. This is just one of the simple messages we should get when we visit the Kaaba. As mentioned earlier, performance of the rites of Hajj leaves a certain impression on the heart, one that the believer may always reference and consult. As believers, we should be ever conscious of the presence of Allah. We should be mindful that even though we do not see Allah, He sees us. With this thought, we understand that one should remember how the angels make tawaf of arrival. As the believers make tawaf around the Kaaba, every aspect of his belief should make tawaf around the Kaaba within his consciousness. We should be emphatic in our awareness that even though we do not see Allah, Allah sees us. This supports the institution of Hajj in every aspect. Allah further instructs the Prophet about Abraham's prayer by revealing. And remember, Abraham said, "My Lord, make this a city of peace and feed its people with fruit, such of them as believe in God and the last day." He said, "Yea, and such as reject faith for a while, I grant them their pleasure, but will soon drive them to the torment of the hellfire, an evil destination indeed." We remember that not only were the sacred precincts places of unique origin in the beginning of the earth, but it was also the beloved place of Prophet Abraham, so much so that he made a prayer asking Allah to make it a city of peace and to feed its believers with fruits. After a believer makes the pilgrimage, he will return home with the knowledge of having been fed the divine fruit of the Creator. Here, again, it is established that the fruit of the experience gained in visiting the house will always serve as a part of one's life resources. That fruit will feed the believer whenever he is hungry for the relationship that he experienced at the Kaaba, and the believer may feast upon the fruit of his experience until his appetite is satisfied. Allah answered the prayer of Abraham in Surah 28, where he revealed, they say, if we were to follow the guidance with you, we should be snatched away from our land. Have we not established for them a secure sanctuary to where all kinds of fruit are being sent as a provision from us? But most of them do not understand. Inasmuch as this ayat is an ayat that addresses the weak in faith who occupied the sacred precincts during the time of the Rasulullah, it is also an ayat that addresses the weak in faith of today. The Quraysh were afraid that they would have lost their land if they followed the guidance of the Prophet. They failed to recognize that they were just the custodians of the sacred precincts, not its true owner. It is Allah that created it. It is Allah who gives it its sanctity. It is Allah who will determine the future of the land. The same is true for the sacred precincts of our own being. Our souls are appointed the temporary custodians of our bodies. It is Allah who created the body and the soul. It is Allah who gives us guidance to establish a sanctity within. It is Allah who will determine what our future is, and it is Allah who sends the fruits of provision to us. Just as the believers pay tribute to Mecca as the citadel of the spiritual revolution on earth, the fruits of our deeds come to pay tribute to the spiritual evolution of our soul. We are constantly provided with the fruit of the provisions from Allah, but most of us do not understand. Hajj will bring you closer to that awareness. To the spiritual evolution of our soul. We are constantly provided with the fruit of the provisions from Allah, but most of us do not understand. Hajj will bring you closer to that awareness.